Hey,
Who are you?
I'm Adrienne.
Okay.
That was very alcoholic. You gotta say that again. It's just coffee, but hi, I'm Adrienne. I am from Colorado originally, and I've been living in Kansai, well, Osaka mainly, for the last 10 years.
Okay. What introduced you to Japan?
I actually came the first time when I was in high school, just a short trip, and was staying in Kyoto at a little like host family's house. And yeah, I was just hooked from then on out.
Okay, was that your first taste of Kansai? Like, what brought you, keeps you in Kansai?
That was my first taste of Kansai. But I loved it from that point. I just felt like I hadn't had a lot of other experience, but I felt very like comfortable here. And then in university, I came back. And then after university, I moved here, and it's all been Kansai. I've spent time in other places, but nowhere's compared, really.
What keeps drawing you back to the Kansai area?
Ah, mainly the people. I mean, I think it's a beautiful, I think you get a nice mix of city and country, but Kansai people can't be beat. Like, there's a genuine openness that I haven't found elsewhere.
Okay, and you said you went first to Kyoto,
Mm.
and then where did you go to school when you came out here, university?
So I studied at Kansai Gaidai.
Oh, there we go, Kansai.
Yeah. And then, yeah, then I left. And then after I graduated university in the States, I moved back with the JET program, and I was living in Hyogo.
What did you study in university?
Japanese art history.
Wow.
So why or what are you doing here in Kansai now?
Now I'm freelance, so I do a lot of different jobs. But my recent passion project is building a miniature Osaka from cardboard, from recycled materials, but mainly found objects, mainly cardboard. But there's a lot of other pieces, bits and bobs in there.
Okay, what inspired you to start making a mini Osaka?
Um, I think where I'm living, especially like the city's changing. Sadly, with any kind of development, a lot of old buildings get torn down, and the pieces or places that I've chosen to make are like retro bubble era Japan at its finest, and it's kind of to memorialize them. Hopefully, like attract more people to visiting these places and
Okay, you're
keeping them
talking
around.
about this bubble era. What's the name of this bubble era?
I like older, well, I like Showa, late Showa era Japanese architecture. There was a lot of money coming in. There was a lot of crazy designs being made. Decisions that I think we don't see now. When you got a lot of money, you make some amazing design choices, basically. And I'm creating them again.
Okay, where did you see these like Showa inspired architecture?
I think you can find pockets of it everywhere. I'm living in Namba. I think like Uranamba, Nipponbashi. I think anywhere you can seek it out. Kyobashi is amazing. There's some great spots there. Back up in even in Umeda, back up in Umeda. All over Osaka, you can find these like little gems, really.
Okay, where is your favorite architectural Showa building?
Oh, oh man, that's hard. Misono building has a soft spot in my heart. I love like Universe. I mean, the first time I went to Universe down under Misono, like it's amazing. If you haven't been,
I haven't.
oh my God, it's it's great. Yeah.
Okay. Any of these buildings in your little Osaka, mini
Mm.
Osaka?
Misono is there. It's probably the second one I built. On the same street as Misono, there's Miss Pearl, which is a famous cabaret club. Miss Osaka, Miss Pearl, that still run today, but I don't know how long Like I don't know if they'll continue. But I've got my own little
So for
miniature ones.
people outside of Japan, what is
A cabaret.
What's cabaret? I hear you are well versed.
Well, cabaret. Well, there's levels, right? But cabaret would be more of a stage. There's a theater kind of thing, and men or women would enter, and women would sit. Women staff would sit with you and kind of entertain you for the evening.
Okay. How do you know about like all these different types of buildings?
A lot of exploration, a lot of like bura bura, like just exploring Japan. A good friend of mine, Ryan, when I also like drinking a lot. So like you find a lot of cool places when you're just like at night. And a friend of Ryan, he challenged me because I used to start going to the same places over and over again. He challenged me to go to different bar every time I drank, unless it was a Saturday and then I could go somewhere I knew. It was one of the best things I ever did because if you come anywhere in Japan, like you get these giant like buildings and there's this like 5 bars, 10 bars, 20 bars on each
Yes.
floor. Like you could find the most amazing place and never find it again. It's something that I've never seen in another city or another country per se. Like this just levels of tiny, amazing little places.
All right, so this little Osaka that you're building
Mm.
is the name Little Osaka?
No, it's called Kanpai City.
Kanpai.
Kanpai, cheers,
Okay.
cheers city. Because it is more of my version of a nighttime Osaka, which, I mean, you're lucky to see me in the day, but I'm more of a nighttime person.
Okay. What are you trying to express in that Kanpai City?
Um, there's a lot of things. Like it's a love story to Osaka, my own little way. Made out of trash, which I also feel is kind of like a nod to Osaka. There's not been a lot of money, let's say, invested in making it. Uh, but yeah, I also want to show people that you can make art out of anything too. Like there's no need for expensive equipment. This is a bunch of stuff I found and reshaped to be something else.
Yeah, like one man's treasure.
Trash.
Trash is
another
another.
man's
Yeah, there you
treasure.
go.
Oh
You
man, how
go.
do you mess up the biggest like breakthrough idiom in the world?
But
But
yeah, it is my little treasure.
but yeah, would you? I would even call like what would you call yourself as far as like when you go to these like I don't know where you go to get it, but I wouldn't call it trash because
Yeah, it's like a friend of mine and I like we always say it's like rescuing. Like I love another part of Japanese culture I love is yokai as well. And the whole idea of yokai of being like once something is over 100 years old, an inanimate object can take on a life,
wow.
right? So I always kind of believe that things, I mean, hear me out, not like that my furniture walks around when I'm not here, but that inanimate objects and things we've got to protect them, especially old things. I've got a lot of old things in my house that I've rescued from the trash and yeah, building things out of trash. I should avoid the word trash.
Yeah,
But
I don't know you
Art
because
objects.
found art,
Objects, yes,
found art
objects.
objects.
yeah, you have a lot of different knickknacks.
Yeah.
That normally a lot of people who come to Japan cannot get their hands on. How did you find all these gems?
You guys just gotta roll your sleeves up, dive into some dumpsters. I mean, no, I've well, a lot of it has come literally from dumpsters. You can't see it now, but actually, the room next to you, there's a giant mirror on the wall, and that is an old construction mirror that I carried on my back like a giant turtle on the Shinkansen from Tokyo to Osaka. And you could imagine there was some like interesting questions that I got asked, but
No need to fuck.
yeah, you gotta accept that
So,
people.
interesting question. Now, talking about the knickknacks
Yeah.
and things around you, why? How do you know what's valuable, what's not? Do you have like a background
I
in?
do. I mean, I don't know if like some of the stuff you see here is necessarily valuable. It's valuable to me, but in my kitchen, I have a background in ceramics. I did my master's at Sotheby's in London, specifically Asian ceramics was my focus. Um, so I do have quite a big background in kind of small art, and so it's quite funny when I go to maybe like Shitenoji has a great flea market once a month, and I go there and I'm yeah, it's on the 21st, 22nd. Definitely check it out. But because I know, I'll be like, oh, that's nice. And someone will tell me, oh, it's very expensive. I'm like, hmm. Like, I know kind of what things should be priced at. So if I see something that's a good value, I'll pick it up.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Please take us one time on that trip. But I say one thing about you: you are very unique individual. You carried a mirror from Tokyo, yeah, Tokyo to Osaka. Like, there's got to be something driving you, like behind you, like that's telling you to do this. Like, why did you take that glass?
um,
Like,
it was sad. Oh, well, first of all, there was like 30 other ones in the trash, and it like kills me to this day that I couldn't take all of them because I would have loved to fill the whole wall. But I am only one person. Yeah, there's a desire to preserve something. I think a lot is lost in and I don't like not no dissing on anyone that like, shops at IKEA, but I think that there's a lot lost in not like kind of looking at something and realizing how you can incorporate. That's an old construction mirror, but I could buy a domed one at a shop and spend a lot of money, and like this one has a history. It was probably hanging up on some road in Atami is where it was from. Yeah, just an idea of preserving. I think we consume a lot and a lot gets thrown out that doesn't need to be thrown out. And if you can look at things in a different light, like how can you rework something? It's quite interesting.
like, how do you go out and pick the things that you take
There are
home with you?
criteria.
Yeah.
Well, there's like sometimes a lot of awkward moments. So the pet shop sign, for example, was in the trash at a pet shop that was closing down, and I did some laps around the shop, and then finally I went in to ask the lady, could I have it? It was definitely in her trash. And she was like, you don't want that. It's broken. And I'm like, yeah, I do want it. She's like, but why? Like explaining to the old lady that I wanted this, her old pet shop sign was like comedic in itself. But I love old neon. Now, a lot of the places, and even where I built in my little Kanpai City, a lot of neon is being replaced because neon gas is expensive. And a lot of these old English escape, like signs are being replaced with neon. Like when Glico recently got replaced by like the old Glico with the individual bulbs. I loved like I don't need LED. I'm not a fan of LED Glico. I like this. Yeah, I like the glow of neon. I know it's not really cost effective and I understand why people change things, but yeah, there's some desire to preserve something in me.
Okay, yeah. So like you collecting all these things, like what do you see yourself doing in the future, like with
Oh, good
everything?
question.
Yeah.
For a long time I thought of having, there was a place when I lived in London that I really loved. It was kind of a place that they started out as an antiques shop, but they had a bar within it. And because everything was for sale, things got flipped over a lot. Basically, people would come. And I love the idea of a space living in that way. I would maybe in the future love to do something like that where I have an antique shop that's a bar space or art space that everything's for sale. So new things come in, things go out.
Yeah, man. Like you're one of the few people that I know that have a really dope pad. This is the first time I've ever seen anything like this in Japan, period. How is it easy to get places like this?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think that for me personally, I was willing to give up new and clean for old, big, and with some character. I think if you are willing to kind of compromise, you can find it. But I do think that you have to sometimes go in an alternative way, like cycle around the area, find a building you like, call the building directly. Um, of course, if you speak Japanese, this process is easier, but I looked a lot and I wasn't finding what I wanted until I kind of took this method. And now, yeah, now I have this strange big apartment, but
So, like changing gears a bit.
mm,
So you've been based in Osaka
mm,
the whole time, and we find this question a lot
mm,
where for people foreigners in Japan and people coming to Japan, there's this premise that you can't find success
mm.
in this country without going to Tokyo and being in Tokyo. So what would you say to people that want to come to Japan? Maybe they're not really sure about Tokyo and they're kind of weighing their options.
Mm.
Do you think it's possible to do what you love and find your own little niche without having to go to this, the megalopolis that is Tokyo?
Oh, absolutely. I think that a lot of people get sucked into that. And one thing of that's good to mention is the price difference between living in Osaka and Tokyo is astronomical. Like I especially for creatives, artists that maybe can live on a lot, like that need to live on a lot less while they're figuring their things out, you can do that in Osaka. I it's the food is delicious and cheap. You can find cheaper apartments. I think you have a lot more success from the beginning if you keep your costs low, and I think you can do that here. Also, I think that we need to start I hope that people start staying here. And the more people that do stay here and demand to like make it a creative place, that's where change will happen. I've gotten job offers in Tokyo for as long as I've been here, and nothing's ever been good enough to pull me out of Osaka. And I don't think anything ever would be like this is home.
What would you say about the community in Osaka? Whether the Japanese people, the foreign
Mm.
community, what do you just think about what's different of the community here than other places in Japan?
Well, I'm friends with a lot of musicians. I would say more than well, artists as well, but musicians, and there's a great camaraderie. I think like some of my Japanese friends that are musicians that I go to, like the same people go to their shows every week or however often they have them, and there's a great like sense of support when you get in those communities because everyone's kind of close and they I think especially for Japanese, there's this idea that you're doing something that's not traditional and not being like a business person, let's say. And so other people respect that a lot in that community and then support each other. And I think that there's a lot more support maybe than I've seen in Tokyo.
Now, a lot of people have this image that Osaka is this kind of like rough around the edges and almost like unapproachable kind of community or kind of like behavior people have. But what do you think? Is are people in Osaka, are they easier to come to, like to make contact with, be friends with, or what do you think about just getting involved in Osaka?
Ah, I feel completely the opposite. I think that maybe the rough around the edges comes with like this idea of people being super direct. And especially when you're, let's say you're a foreigner coming to Osaka and you don't speak Japanese very well in the beginning, a directness is very useful.
Mm.
Like it might come off as it depends on how you interpret it, but I enjoyed the directness and the beginning when my language wasn't so good because there was no false sense of like people said it how they
Mm.
thought, and I like a little bit less of a filter. I think it brings out like a genuine character in people, and I think yeah, I'm always searching for that, and I found people to be a little bit more genuine here because less of a filter. I like it. I find it actually quite friendly versus rough.
Okay, going back, yeah, to you. You're a freelancer, also a creator here. Uh, there's tons of people like Asa said that have trouble getting out of that teaching worlds. As a creator and a freelancer, like what kind of advice do you give people?
Ah, I did teach, nothing wrong with teaching. I did teaching for a long time. I still do actually private lessons now and again, but I'd say what benefited me a lot was saying yes to everything. Like I was really like someone would say, "Oh, I don't think you want this job," but it's like it would be the most random job you could imagine. And I would say yes to it. And through that like contact building, I think that's really important anywhere you go, but especially here, like word of mouth and kind of contacts will provide other things for you. And yeah, I think there's a lot of options. Luckily, I would say most people that I know that are teachers have a lot of time outside of teaching. And if you use that time wisely, I think you could move from being, if your goal ultimately is to do freelance, I think being a teacher in the beginning is perfect because a lot of times you have an open schedule to then seek out something you love.
What is it that you want to do, like ultimately your goal, like
Ooh. Yeah, I'd say more of the same. And to encourage people to do it also, I think that like creatives collaborating is great. I think building a space possibly in the future, finding a space, I love to find something that people can come and do just that, like be creative and encouraging it. Not everyone's going to leave like a business job, let's say, but like then on your weekends you get your creative hit. And I think that we need to encourage creativity and yeah, that's what I'm here for.
One more question. What do you have words for viewers at home? People that haven't been to Japan, they're considering coming. What would you say to them, and what is your hope for the future of Osaka?
Well, first of all, come. I mean, Japan's a fantastic place. I think that everyone who comes, I've convinced a lot of people to move here. It's my power of persuasion that have visited once. Future of Osaka, I think I honestly I have some concerns because I think that we haven't as a city put as much time and money into the arts. I have hopes that with 2025 and the expo that'll change, but I think we need to kind of as people living here, Japanese or non-Japanese, to kind of make it aware, make the government, make people aware that like we're here and we're creative and we want our city to reflect that. I don't want a gray boxed Osaka. Like we gotta kind of keep it moving.
Keep culture.
Yeah.
Adrienne,
thank you.
thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you
much.
guys. It's
Ruby,
been
that
fun.
was